The Northman has just been released here in the UK, and after having a chance to watch the film early, I think it's an outstanding piece of filmmaking. Robert Eggers brings his distinct artistic approach to the story of Amleth, one of tragedy and revenge that has been told many times before, but he puts his stamp on it in all the best of ways. In this spoiler-free review, I'm going to be discussing Robert Eggers The Northman and listing the reasons why I think it's one of the best movies of the year. But before I get into it, if you want to see much more videos and reviews on auteurs like Eggers, then don't forget to support this video by giving it a like rating, subscribing to the channel, and turning on your notifications. Also, feel free to check me out on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Instagram at Cortex Videos, which is all linked in the description below. But without further ado, let's dive into my review for The Northman. So there are multiple film auteurs working today that have achieved a string of great films, displaying their unique stamp with each of them. After The Northman, I think Robert Eggers may be the next guy to join that list. Following The Witch and The Lighthouse, the filmmaker has brought us another immersive and relatable reflection on human nature, while again exploring the gap between the real world and the supernatural. But while The Northman includes much of this, it also brings a scale that we haven't seen from Eggers before, and does so in all the greatest of ways. This is a truly brutal and beastly motion picture, gripping you from the first minute and refusing to let go until you've experienced all the bloodshed, the different emotions, and the transcendence that a film of this time period should bring. Set in 10th century Ireland and Scandinavia, Robert Eggers The Northman immerses you in the landscapes on screen, bringing immense detail in both its set design and costumes, while capturing the biggest of its scope through its transporting cinematography. There's this idea that the wall between reality and the supernatural is quite weak, and having Eggers put his take on that makes for all the strongest of outcomes. He knows how to artistically capture this tricky idea in film form, and once again proves that it can be perfectly woven within a story that has much ancient bloodshed. It's truly a mesmerizing watch, and things become even clearer the longer it goes on. It's a full-on Viking film without all the modernized filters that tend to come along, and in turn, it feels like Eggers and his team have crafted something of another planet. It's transportive cinema, and the world that is put on screen is completely captivating. It has a bit of something for everyone, and connecting the story to the very human impulses that we all have, whether that be of vengeance or even love, it makes it all the more relatable for differing viewers. It's key to note that it's still an Eggers film, challenging you with all of its imagery and sound, but then it's also very straightforward in a way that we can all feel something from it. In particular, The Northman is the story of Amleth, which inspired the idea of tragedy in Hamlet and is pretty much ingrained in a lot of stories we've had since. Alexander Skarsgård plays a grown-up Amleth who, as a boy, witnesses the murder of his father and king, Eorvandil, played by Ethan Hawke. Committed by his uncle Fjolnir, he watches him take his queen mother, played by Nicole Kidman, and with development yet to occur around that very tragic moment and how characters have evolved, Amleth flees in the aim of gaining vengeance for all of the pain he felt and saw. He will avenge his father, he will save his mother, and he will kill Fjolnir. It's essentially the heartbeat of the whole story, driving the movie in its questions of fate and choice. We see that Amleth has chose to become this beastly warrior who brutally kills his enemies and howls at the moon, but yet he feels driven by fate to conquer everything that was taken from him. Eggers uses close-ups and long moments with the actors to really communicate this ideal, never giving us definitive answers to those very questions, and it makes it all the better for it. He's a filmmaker in sync with the very language of film, in that you can use imagery, sound, and ultimately atmosphere to let us decide what everything means. Amleth could have left his fate behind, but it's his destiny to be driven by the one moment that shaped what he has become. But it especially becomes more testing for him when he meets Anya Taylor-Joy's Olga, a witch whose fate is bound with him. In reflecting her role, each character in fact feels driven internally, and that's hard to pull off in a story like this with very little dialogue. But Eggers' building of tension and connecting to the very scenes he presents in an artistic fashion makes for a genius use of chemistry building and quite the bond that drives the film. Each performance is a complete world in and of itself, and I think Skarsgård, Taylor-Joy, and Kidman stand out as the ones that present this idea of choice versus fate quite effectively, uniquely, and ever present in our minds. Moving on, I think there's going to be quite the mixed response to how this film tells its story. The one side of it is, like I say, an Eggers film with a true delivered style in balancing the real brutality against that of the supernatural. But the other side is that this could be looked at as a traditional epic set in the world of Vikings with another retelling of Hamlet, the greatest story ever told about revenge. I did feel this in certain moments throughout watching it all unfold, but while it may be a bigger problem for some other viewers, for me, the vision of Eggers pushed it well over the mark of safety. They use a familiar tale to tell a new story about the rage of man and how the revenge of a child is much more complicated over time. It creates the question of how huge expectations can lead to a sense of loneliness, especially when you get the answers you didn't expect. It propels the idea of psychological confusion, and I think that pushes this story beyond it being just a famous retelling. And coupled with Eggers' flair, it makes this a new watch of a familiar story. I can understand some will say they have seen it all before, but that's what I personally got from it. A balancing of an Eggers Viking story with all the real and supernatural ideals of human nature driving it. Yes, it doesn't always balance these two halves effectively, but it's a minor gripe with the overall piece, which has so much to love. The Northman is a brooding revenge story that is infused with the epic artistry of Robert Eggers, and that calls for a challenging film, but also an entertaining one at times too. And I think for the most part, that was executed really well. The main positive I got from The Northman is that while the story events are quite predictable in relation to the story it's inspired by, I was always intrigued by Eggers' excellent use of atmosphere and tone in all the imagery I received. It uses its sublime landscape shots and stylized scenes of battle to blend a grounded world with that of the mystical, and those visions are also some of the most strikingly executed alongside all of the film's depiction of Norse mythology. Then there's the great score by Robin Carolan and co, who give us unbalanced tribal drums in a lot of the brutal real-world scenes, contrasted with that of the more abstract sounds in the visions. The music, alongside that of the cinematography, is what I'd consider a great entry point for the more general audience member in establishing what each of these scenes are and what they convey. It helps create the filmic landscape and tone that Eggers went for in telling this iconic story. And then there's the many sequences of violence and gore, ones that stretch the 15 age rating with beheadings, torture, and too much more to list off. One scene that has stuck with me after watching The Northman is the raid that takes place soon after we meet a grown-up Amleth, with Eggers capturing the complete chaos of it, all in just a few sweeping shots. It allows you to witness the absolute carnage that this period is aligned with, and the beast that Amleth has become due to his past. The intention was for this to be a Viking movie, and there's no question that Eggers has achieved that with The Northman. This is a visionary depiction of a story that oozes style, even if it is based on one we've seen many times before. If you're gonna tell a story that has leaked its way into many modern stories today, at least tell it with your own artistic expressions. And Eggers has totally done that. But that was my spoiler-free review for The Northman. Like the Hamlet tragedy, the story of Amleth is one that relates to the very human feelings and impulses we all have, whether that be through vengeance, inner rage, love, or wanting peace. Robert Eggers The Northman touches on all of these ideas, showing that we haven't really changed over time when reflecting on them, and the filmmaking choices and the way the director frames his scenes really demonstrate that well. The worst parts of our nature still control us today, and we are left to howl at the moon and make often reckless choices to try and achieve what we desire. Yes, it's based on a more brutal point in our history, and it can be exaggerated in this medium, but the very themes and ideals relate more than ever. It's a film that does recite a story we've seen play out in many different genres over history, but the unique sense that Eggers brings in the language of his films, including this one, make for a watch that stands out among the best of the year. It's deeply impactful, and the creative choices really make this stand out more than most. I'm giving The Northman a rating of 8.75 out of 10. But to those who have already seen the film, what were your thoughts on Robert Eggers' latest big screen event, and did you love it as much as I did? Let me know down below in the comment section. For lots more videos surrounding the latest film and TV releases like The Northman, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.